Hello and welcome to Tip of the Tongue, a monthly advice podcast for voice actors, producers, and anyone else who wants to make projects on the internet. Everyone's got that passion project they've wanted to make since as far back as you can remember, and this is where we help you learn how to make it happen. I'm Jello.
And I'm William.
I am a graphic designer, illustrator, voice actor, writer, director, and producer.
And I'm barely qualified for this. This is our first episode on writing. If you've got a story, a comic, a game, or almost any other piece of media, then you've got characters. There's lots of ways to write characters, and many of them suck. In this episode, we'll go over some core concepts of character writing that might be just what you need to take your story from good to great. Wants, flaws, character dynamics, how to fix characters that just aren't working, and cut the ones that never should have existed in the first place. We've got a lot to cover.
Yep, and first off, just as a big asterisk to this entire episode, for the most part, everything we say, all of these are guidelines. There are pretty much no hard and fast rules to writing. Like,
yes.
you can find a successful exception to everything we're gonna say, but yeah, these are good guidelines, especially if you're newer to the practice and like haven't actually published anything, or you're kind of just dipping your toe in the water.
Yeah.
And we are going to be focusing on just character stuff and character generation, because writing is such a big topic that neither of us do professionally, but
yeah,
we do dabble in certain ways. So when it comes to character writing, the first thing you need to know is characters, they always need a want. Characters are based around their wants and their goals and their needs. And the easiest thing to do when you're like starting any level of writing is to just sit down and like you have a character idea in your head and sit down and go, okay, what do they want? Let's write a scene. Like, and you can flat out go ahead and write a I want statement, which is, it could be as simple as like, I want to get a glass of water, or I want to get food from the restaurant, or as grand as I want to rescue my sister from the dragon, or I want to destroy the evil empire, or I want to figure out my place in the universe.
Yeah.
And like that should be, they can have multiple, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But that should be something that in any point in any scene you are writing, if some asshole walks up to you and is like, hey, what does your character want right now? You should always be able to give him an answer. Because if you don't know why your character's doing a thing, then you've done something wrong. There should always be a reason for a character being any place in any story, because the story shouldn't be written like, all right, I really want these scenes to happen, and I don't know, there'll just be dialogue in between that leads to that. That's not how you should think of writing. You should think of it like, this story would only happen with these characters, because only they would react to things in this way because of their wants and desires and personalities. So knowing what your character wants is a really important first step.
Yeah, there's a lot of times where you'll look at some stories and they've got all these characters that are just kind of hanging out. I don't know if this is the best example, but JoJo's Bizarre Adventure has a lot of situations where people are there just to be there. They have no other purpose. They like in part 3, Polnareff, he accomplishes his want in like the first arc, like in the first part of it. And he just hangs out with them for really no good reason.
Yeah, that's not an especially universal example, but I think one of the most egregious characters who is just around in that segment is so for anyone non-familiar, the basic story of this part of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is we need to go to Egypt and defeat a guy, and it's like a world tour fighting a bunch of people to get there. And for the first fourth of the story, there's like this little girl who just kind of follows them around randomly.
Yeah.
For no reason. And like, why is she doing that? We don't really know. What does she accomplish in the story? We don't know. Like, sometimes there just needed to be a little girl to save, or sometimes there needed to be someone to like accomplish one little small thing, and like there wasn't really a lot of thought placed into why is she here? Why is she following them? What does she want out of following them? Why wouldn't she run away seeing all of these dangerous things happening? Like, those kind of questions, you need to be able to answer all of those. And I know it seems tedious, but every single decision you make in your story is important. And if it's like, well, why wouldn't she run away seeing these guys? These guys have been attacked and almost murdered. So has she, because she's been in their proximity and she's seen them murder people. So what does she want out of being around them? And as it turns out, the answer is eventually just nothing, and she kind of just disappears.
Yeah. I mean, even if her want is as simple as she wants to know what's going on, at least it's something, and it makes sense why she'd stick around for all the dangerous crap that's going on. But she really doesn't have any purpose at there. any purpose there. And even the author decided, yeah, I don't know why she's here, and just never shows up again. And it's baffling. So just make sure that your character has a purpose in every scene.
We can get into like the grander purpose of their involvement in the plot a little later, but like even if you're not 100% sure why your character is there yet, they should know why they're there.
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
Even if it's just, oh no, I'm on this adventure I don't want to be on, but like I need to accomplish part of it to leave, because otherwise, like there's a show on Netflix right now called Voltron the Legendary Defender, and at the start of the show there's like 5 people who pilot parts of this robot that comes together and defends the universe. One of the and they are all just wrapped up into this. They do not have a choice, and that's fine. Their initial want does not need to be, I want to have an adventure, by any means. One of the characters, Pidge, she does not want to be involved in this. She wants to find out what happened to her missing brother and her dad. And she flat out says like, hey, I'm going to leave the group because, like, in like episode 4 or something, I'm going to leave because I want to find my family. And they eventually convince her back, not by going, hey, you don't need to save your family, that doesn't matter. But like, hey, this is an evil empire we're fighting. They're going to get to Earth eventually, and we know they kidnapped your family. So like, if you leave us now, that leaves us with no weapon to fight them, and you're on your own fighting them. Whereas if you help us, this will be better for everyone. And she's convinced. And then like, her initial plot isn't dropped. Like once or twice every season they go back, and she has a little subplot, and that's totally fine because she has her certain wants, and it makes total sense. So that's it. The other the next big thing you need to think of with characters is flaws.
Yep.
So you've probably heard, if you've had any experience with any level of writing or fan fiction even, of the term Mary Sue or Marty Stew. That's like basically a perfect character who does everything right. And like, you know, they're the protagonist. Sometimes if it's fan fiction, they're like a self-insert where it's like, he was a beautiful man and he was so good at sword fighting and he led the armies and everyone loved him. And there's no problems there. Like, that makes for a bad character because people are flawed. You are more interested if a character has flaws to overcome. If they don't have any flaws,
they're not a character.
They can't be dynamic. And like, well, not necessarily all of your characters should be dynamic. I am of the school of thought that I think as many as possible should be, even if it's in a small way, because people change based on things that they experience. Yeah. And that's what storytelling is. So if you don't have any flaws to start with, your character cannot grow. And also, they are so boring.
Yep. Like, it's okay if you do have a character who's like talented at many things, but do give them a couple flaws, because it creates a more interesting situation of like, oh, this like perfect beacon of like hope and justice, whatever, does maybe have like an alcohol problem that they hide. That's kind of a little more interesting. Like, oh, maybe there's a lot more going on with this guy. Maybe even though that they come off as this strong and powerful individual who like never is afraid of anything, there's clearly something wrong. There's something that you can connect with them, even though they are this great being. A character that I personally dislike immensely is Superman. I hate this character. Maybe he's been written better over the years, but he has basically every power. He can basically not be killed at all. Everyone loves him. He can do no wrong. He's like lawful good to the maximum, goody two shoes, and he's not interesting. Every time there's a problem, it's like, I could just throw it in the sun. That's just something I can do.
I will, before we get angry comments, I am a little more aware of Superman mythos than Will is, and there are certainly stories where he has done excellently, but if he has done poorly, very good example of what, like imagine if you're writing a superhero story and you have like a Superman who doesn't have any issues and is just like the guy with the power who comes in at the end of every episode and wipes the floor clean with everyone. Super boring, because an audience finds it very hard to root for characters who are perfect because they have no investment in someone who can overcome any conflict. It doesn't matter what comes up, because they can overcome it. It is just boring. So here, example of a character who is super powerful, Saitama from One Punch Man.
Oh yeah.
Is basically like just his entire power set is can win any fight in one punch. He is the One Punch Man, but he is like very bored with life, and while at his core is a good guy, doesn't have a lot of direction, doesn't have a lot of ambition, and the story is not about these monsters he needs to defeat. It's about him finding his place in superhero society, and it's not man versus monster, it's man versus society, and that's the conflict. And like his victories, well, like he can just punch anyone, and that's kind of boring because you know he'll win. He is the one punch man. But the interesting points in the story come from things like, hey, I am going to punch this giant monster that wiped out all these other heroes. And everyone's like, what, did that guy cheat? Because we just watched all our favorite heroes get defeated, and who is this guy? Nobody knows. And then he like, in a split-second decision, this is one of the best scenes in the show, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
He decides to forego any glory, and it's like, man, it sure is a good thing all those other superheroes weakened him down for me. And they're all like, boo, you're a piece of crap. Get out of here, you kill stealer. And he leaves, but by doing that, he saved the reputation of all these other heroes. And at the end of the episode, one of the other heroes, who's like the weakest one in the show, but probably has the best heart, comes over and he's like, you are the best. You are a wonderful hero, and I really respect you, and I would love to get dinner with you. And it's really moving because you can see how the character affected someone. And even though he's strong and he's like flawed and has problems in society, he still manages to overcome a conflict, even though the conflict he technically overcame was not just the punch a big monster that was killing people. It was also the social problem that he had to deal with.
Yeah, no, One Punch Man does it right. If you're gonna have like that OP person, yeah, that's the way to do it.
It can be done. Also of note, if you're doing, say, like a villain or something, do not only make your villain flaws, even if you really want him to just be a bastard, like someone that nobody will like. I personally like affable villains who you can understand.
Yeah.
I get it that people don't, and it's nice to just have evil punching bags sometimes. Sometimes you need that. It makes perfect sense. But never just have a flat villain unless they're like literally I'm a drunk guy at a bar and I'm gonna feel up a girl so the main character can punch me and you can introduce the main character and I have 3 lines of dialogue. That's fine because that's barely a character. They're more of a device to introduce your character. But like, if anyone's interested in comics, you might be familiar with an artist named Scott McCloud who has an amazing book called Making Comics. And he has one of my favorite all-time tweets, which is just, any villain that is a being of pure blank will always be boring. And he is right, because it is so boring to have the conflict be, oh no, it's the giant space cloud that's going to eat the planet, and we gotta get rid of it somehow. Like, I don't care about the space cloud. You might as well have the problem be, that building's on fire. There is as much like, oh no, this is a one-sided conflict. This is basically man versus nature.
Yeah, and
like,
man versus nature is one of the most boring things.
It's very hard to do right. And you want your villain to also have goals. You want your villain to be interesting. As a really quick aside, I got 2 questions about villains on Twitter. One is, when it comes to making villains, in your opinion, what is the best way to not make them flat characters? The audience, even if they don't agree with your villain, that is totally cool. They should always be able to understand what they're doing.
Yes.
If your villain at any point is doing something that is so stupid no one else would ever do it, or they just want to blow up the world for no reason, people won't like them, because that doesn't make any sense. And like, if a 5-year-old can point out, well, why is he doing that? You've failed.
Yeah.
The only time I could think of, like, I want to blow up the planet as your excuse is in, like, a really over-the-top comedy series where it works. It's just like, yeah, like, why are you doing this? I don't know, I just want to do it. Like, that can be amusing. But if you're playing it straight, you need to have your villains have a motivation. Like, give them a reason to do what they're doing.
Yeah, because, your villain kind of lives on this planet. They better have a good reason why they're just going to blow it up.
Also, make your villain a person. Don't just make them like a big hulking evil suit of armor that's just like, sire, I'm so sorry, we failed to kill the heroes. Then you failed me, blows them up. Like, how did this person get into power? They have no charisma. They kill all their people. It is so much better to show off your villain being an interesting character by having them interact with people and like having any level of an actual dynamic with their subordinates or the heroes. I love if you have a good like whether it be like they're kind of friends, kind of enemies thing going on with the protagonist and antagonist, or they actually just hate the crap out of each other, have them interact. That is okay. There, number one way. I cannot stress this enough. Way to write a terrible villain. Do not have them interact with the party until the very end, where they are defeated. That is the worst thing you can do. It is always boring. Like so. I'll get back to this in more depth in a second because it's a big point. There are only 3 ways you can show off your characters. There's exactly 3. It is what the character says, what the character does, and what others say about the character. Those are the 3 ways. And if you don't have them interact with anyone, the only one you get is what others say about the character. And that's the worst one of the 3 because a lot of it is tell, don't show, which you should never do. So have your character be around and have them be involved and have their plans, like, even if they're insane, have them make a level of sense to them. Yeah, so I'll come back to that other villain question later if we have time because it's a little more complex and I'm trying to like escalate this from the bare bones of character writing to more nuanced stuff.
Right.
But yeah, 3 ways you can demonstrate a character, what a character does, what they say, and what others say about the character. So, Will, for the sake of example for the rest of this podcast, let's you and I make up a character.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so let's give him a name. What should this character's name be? What do you think?
Herbert.
All right, Herbert Steele. Our guy's name is Herbert Steele. Let's say he's an action hero. Let's take a genre that,
but sure.
No, I know, but let's challenge ourselves. Let's take a genre that doesn't normally have good character writing and let's improve upon that.
Sure.
So we've got Herbert Steele. Herbert Steele, if he's an action hero, he is he's a middle-aged, kind of haggard by life white man, muscles, and let's say he's ex-military or ex-cop. What do you think?
Let's do ex-cop.
Let's do ex-cop. That's a little more fun.
Because if he's ex-military, he's got like a shit ton of skills.
Yeah.
And an ex-cop just has experience.
That's a good point. I like that. So, what a character does is the best way to show what their deal is. Obviously, because again, it's show don't tell. One of my favorite, really simple but really well done. I'll come back to Herbert Steele. Don't worry. We'll do an example of each of these with Herbert Steele. So one of my favorite ways a character was ever introduced, a really simple one, just a kids movie in Aladdin. The first time you meet Aladdin, incredibly good opening sequence, great introduction to his character. It's just a big song about how he's like, I don't want to steal, but I gotta eat, and I don't care that much. And he's very playful. Everyone in the town is like, oh gosh, that Aladdin. So they all know of him. Everyone thinks he's kind of a deadbeat. The ladies kind of like him, but and these are all the ways that the things other people say about him. But then the first 2 scenes that Aladdin is in, he uses a lot of cleverness and guile and a really good song number to steal a loaf of bread from the market and outwit the guards. So immediately you know he is a thief. He is agile, he's smart, and he's pretty charming and likable, but he's a thief. And the second scene is he comes upon 2 orphan children in the street and they have no food. So he immediately looks at the bread that he just almost got killed over 20 times. He's like, all right. And he just gives it to them. And that is it's such a good way. It's very simple to be like, okay, here's our guy. He's a thief with a heart of gold. Got it. Easy. That was 4 minutes, and I know what this guy's deal is. And you know what would have been a very bad way to introduce Aladdin is to have him walk by and have people in the marketplace there's that Aladdin. He stole my bread. Oh, but he donated his kidney to save my daughter. He's all right. Just well, don't tell me that crap through clunky exposition. Show me. So Herbert Steele, let's develop Herbert together.
Okay.
So I'm gonna give you a situation, and I want you to tell me how Herbert reacts to this.
Oh, great. Okay.
So Herbert Steele has just been off the force for let's say he's let's give him a more salt and pepper hair. He's a little older. Let's say he's just turned 60.
Oh, okay.
He's pretty old. So Herbert Steele finds out that his daughter is currently dating a guy who she thinks is nice, but as it turns out, this guy is a drug runner for a guy that Herbert was never able to catch when he was on the force.
Ooh, okay.
So like let's just like shout out some ways that Herbert could react to this. Like for like the action movie way would obviously be to like break into his house and scare the crap out of him and threaten his life and be like, "Where you getting the drugs?" But that's boring.
Yeah.
Because that's everyone does that.
I like to think that Herbert, maybe he did that once where he found out, like, he got a connection. He was like, "Oh, I can't waste this." And he did, like, "I'm a cop that doesn't follow the rules." And this time he's like, "I got an idea." And instead he's like super pleasant, like helps the guy out with all sorts of things. He's like, "Hey, I'm on my way over to the grocery store. Did you want to just tag along and I can buy you groceries this week? I know you college kids and all that." And the guy's like, "Oh, hey, sure." And maybe by helping this guy out more and more, his first goal is like, maybe if I just help this kid out, maybe he'll just get out of the biz. But my second goal is, if he doesn't, maybe I can get information out of him to arrest the guy so that then this guy can be a good person.
That's excellent, because that sets up, first of all, that's way more interesting to me because it goes against the grain of action movies.
Yeah.
But it shows that Herbert Steele is like, he kind of knows his own age and his own experience. And he's like, "No, you know what? I'm better than that. I'm clever. I can get close to this guy. Maybe I can convince him to like drop this. And, or like at worst, I can learn more about him and just be kind of stealthy and figure out who he's dealing with."
Yep, exactly. I think that would be a lot more fun. And like, you can still have your cool action scenes, but you can play off his age a bit. Maybe if they do get into a fight, like the whole time he's just like, "Oh, my freaking back." And then like he has to like keep sitting down in the middle of the fight during a gunfight and crap like that. Like,
yeah,
give him a little more personality.
Age is a flaw.
Yeah,
that's a physical flaw that prevents a character from doing something. That's more interesting. And I like the idea that he once kind of beat the crap out of a guy and like lost that lead permanently, because that's something that could be flashed back to. That's a good contrast. And he's got like kind of a flawed past. He was kind of an abusive cop or whatever, and now he's more like, "Okay, I gotta do this a little more close to the chest."
And I like the idea that it wasn't, "Now that I'm a family man, I've learned that it's good to be a good person." Instead it was, "Man, I messed up. I got to learn from this. What did I do wrong? I guess breaking everybody's teeth didn't get any results. Okay. How can I try this different?"
Also, here's a side note. This is very important. If your character has ever had a more interesting part of your life, say it happens like 10 years after the point in the story you're being introduced to them, or in their flashback something cool is happening, why aren't we seeing that?
Yeah.
And like, that doesn't mean you can never do flashbacks, or like, say your character has like a really storied past, or like a piece of information about them is a really big twist that you want to break out in Act 2. That's totally cool, but make sure you are thinking like, "Okay, I've got this idea for a story, and okay, I got Herbert Steele, and in the past, Herbert Steele like blew up a million trucks and like to stop a chase." And oh man, there's a really good example of this that I'm trying to think of. I know one of them is in Indiana Jones Crystal Skull. Anytime, like the fourth one, anytime a character just like casually mentions like, "This is like that time we were doing whatever over in Uganda and we almost died," show us that. That sounds great. Like, I wanna learn about that. That sounds cool. You should always present your character. You should frame them the best way you can.
Yeah.
So, like, the reason we're following Herbert in his 60s is because this is another chapter in his life that is of interest. And maybe we can cut back to him in his 30s or 20s or whatever every once in a while as a contrast to what he's like now, because that'll make him more interesting. But those are the two big moments of his life. Cool. Focus on those two.
Yep.
So
absolutely. Yeah. Also, what what'd be really cool about Herbert is if his family life is super healthy.
Yeah, no, I just want him to be like a really pleasant cop who's got like he's very like weapons sheathed all the time kind of guy, but like he's surprisingly, maybe he's like really affable and is like just so hard to like not to say no to, but like, even if you kind of know, like, "Yeah, I've heard about you, Herbert. I know what you do. I know how you get close to people." No, man. And like, he just, I knew about him, but he's just a good guy, like talking to Herbert.
I like Herbert. He's a nice fella. He just gets people. And that can also be just kind of an interesting thing of seeing what led him to go from this like teeth shattering jackass and to this like pleasant older guy who's just like, you know, whatever, it is what it is.
So just in case this ever comes up again, your description of teeth-shattering jackass, I would like to present the main antagonist of the Herbert Steele movie.
Oh, sure.
I would like the main antagonist to be the informant that he beat the shit out of the first time around, who has now worked his way up and is now a big part of this crime syndicate.
Oh, okay. What's their name?
Oh, well, whatever it was before, it's got to be like Snaggletooth or something
Oh,
now.
maybe they just call him dentures.
Dentures, yeah, because he's got dentures, and first of all, that immediately gives the main antagonist a connection to the hero and a dynamic with him, which is interesting, because obviously Dentures is going to want some revenge on Herbert Steele, and whether that becomes his primary motivation, which it shouldn't be, or it's just like a side thing, like, I gotta do the deal, but Herbert's in town and I know he's only here this week. All right, I'll dispatch a guy, go kill Herbert for me. Like, you know, like he's kind of distracted. That's a flaw that the villain has, where he can't get over his lost thing, even though Herbert has moved on. And that's another contrast, small thing. I love it. It is my favorite thing ever whenever the protagonist and antagonist have the same character arc set up for both of them, and the difference between them is that the protagonist learns from it and grows, and the antagonist cannot. That's a really good way to tie your themes into your characters. That's not by any means a necessity. I just love it whenever that's done well. It's so good every single time.
It might be kind of cool when eventually Herbert is captured by Dentures, because it's going to happen, that Dentures doesn't go after Herbert's family. He only goes after Herbert because his mentality is, years and years ago, Herbert was after this main bad guy and Dentures got his ass kicked by him for really no good reason, just because it was a connection. And Dentures is like, no, that's not how I operate. So he goes straight for Herbert. And they're like in a crappy basement, and he rips the bag off of Herbert's head. And Herbert actually, instead of being super pissed or upset with his circumstances, he just looks and goes, yeah, I kind of deserve this. And he kind of understands this karma.
I'm gonna take your scene that you've just set up, and I'm gonna take it to the next point. Keep your characters consistent. So let's say now, ever since Herbert Steele beat the crap out of Dentures back before he was Dentures. After that, he got super reprimanded, and like not even just as a cop, like I bet his family was kind of dragged into that. That would hurt their whole family reputation. Maybe like he just had a kid, like his daughter was like just getting into school, and his wife was like, we're trying to get her into a good school right now. And they hear, oh, her dad is the guy in the news who beat in a guy's teeth.
Yeah,
and
the
left him
teeth-shattering jackass.
Yeah, so he was like, wow, this is really bad. I promise not to solve my situation through violence. Unless someone is going to die. If I don't, I will not do it. So like even if he doesn't say that explicitly, say that's like a character trait he has, and he's very level-headed, and he's a kind old guy. And then in this scene with Dentures, he like gets slapped once and then tries to like kick Dentures in the nuts or something. That's weird, because anytime you break, and like that's just kind of a smaller example, but like really big ones are so jarring and awful, and they will rip your audience right out of their immersion so quickly. Ooh, this is like a really weird example, but in Avatar: The Last Airbender, one of the main antagonists, Azula, who is the princess of the evil nation, she has two right-hand ladies, and one of them's name is Ty Lee, and she's like a bubbly, she's like an acrobat, and her ability is she can kind of disable parts of your body with magic, acupuncture, karate, basically.
Yeah.
And I like her a lot, because she's like the only happy goofball on Team Evil, which I always love, because again, contrasts are great in writing.
Yeah.
They bring out the best in all your things. So her character is almost always that way, and there is only one episode where she's like, they delve into her personally, and they do it with all the villains, and she's just like, yeah, I had like 19, I think she's like, I have like 8 basically identical siblings, and all of us were always so like we're a noble family, so we were like, raised to be the prettiest, and I felt like part of a set, and I hated that. So her personality is she ran off to join the circus, which is where she got her acrobatic skills, and she wants to be an individual. She wants to be like free-spirited and that stuff. And there's one scene where she's fighting another group of girls who the Kyoshi warriors, who are good guys, and she beats up a couple of them and just randomly is like, "You are not prettier than us," out of nowhere. And no other time in the entire series is that ever a hang up for her. And also it's a bad line. And also in her episode where she's like, "Yeah, I hated that it was always about being like very pretty with my sisters or whatever." That's like totally not what she's about. So I hate that line because it's out of nowhere and it sticks in my head because it makes no sense. And that is not what you want people to remember.
Yeah, people will be more likely to remember the bad than the good.
You just hate for money.
You just hate for money.
All right, I think now we got a lot of great questions this episode, so we're trying to intersperse them. Yeah, thank you. You can always throw us questions at my Twitter, which is at welcome2tweet. Welcome the number 2 tweet. Mm-hmm. So let's grab another question. In your opinion, how would you write good female characters, and what would good examples be? P.S. Will has a nice voice.
Aw, thank you.
So, my favorite rule I have ever seen for how to write a good female character is write a good character.
Yeah, absolutely. That like the sex, the gender, any of the what's of the character should not matter.
Yeah, the sexuality, your race, your ableness, none of that should factor into I'm going to write a character in a wheelchair. I'm going to write the gay character. Those are traits you have on a well-written character, not a trait that is their personality, which is why it is so infuriating. Finally, this is dying down. Finally, after 10 years of me watching cartoons my whole life, but having the group of 4 or 3, and then one of them is the girl and her personality is girl. That is the worst. Never do that. And that doesn't mean you can't have them like stereotypical feminine things. If they sitting down, painting their nails, and looking really nice before they go out, that's a thing people just like to do. That's totally fine. Here's an easy thing. Never fucking point out that they're the girl character. If you ever say anything in any context that is along the lines of, just because I'm a girl doesn't mean blank. I have dropped shows because they have said that line. Because it is the worst. It's the worst episode. If you want to have a girl power episode or here's our cool black characters, we want them to be the focus, you just have them be the focus and don't point it out. Yeah. Because it shouldn't be something you need to point out. You should just have, if you want to have a super diverse cast, cool. If you want to tackle good issues, if you want to tackle, if you want to tackle the big issues of our present day.
No, I know what you mean.
Sexuality and representation in media, absolutely do it. Try your best not to point it out. Because my sister and I, here's another Aladdin example, but this time a negative one, and not from the movie. So my sister and I went to see Broadway and Chicago's production of Aladdin, which is a pretty good musical. And at one point, the Sultan's like, blah, 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 you must come of age and marry a person, Jasmine. And she says, why do I have to get married? And I swear to God, turns towards the audience and is like, what's wrong with a woman being in power? Pause for applause. And my sister and I were like, boo, we support your message, but not how you're presenting it. We didn't actually boo, but both of us were like, what the hell was that clunky piece of crap?
Yeah, that's rough. Oof. Okay.
So here's a game I just played, Night in the Woods. That if you want to learn about character writing, play Night in the Woods. It's just a book. It's not even a visual novel, but it's like an English. It has the same vibes as a novel you'd read in English class, but goddamn, it has such good character dynamics and such good character writing. The cast in that is the main character is a super has a lot of mental illness problems right now, and is bisexual. And then 2 of the other 3 main characters are a gay couple. They're 2 guys. And that is not their personality by any means at all. And all you need to do to just sort of make it easy to fit that into your story and not point it out is just have it there. like a human would have it there.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, how have you been doing, Greg? Oh yeah, me and Angus were like going out on a date tonight. That's it. Now I know they're in a male and male couple. The end.
Yeah.
And now just have them be a good couple. That's all you have to do. People suggested. The other part of this comment was, do you have any good examples? I have a bad example that people praise a lot, which is Korra in The Legend of Korra. Horrible protagonist. Main reason, completely inconsistent character. She's a different person every single season and always a bad one. I hate her.
It's a shame.
And Asami can do better.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think
Of like good examples.
of good examples, like, because there's so many.
Any gal from Full Metal Alchemist, basically.
Oh my god, Riza Hawkeye, Winry Rockbell, they're both awesome.
Olivier Armstrong, I freaking love her. They're all awesome.
Yeah, Full Metal Alchemist is just also really excellently written. And
on point.
And so if you like Full Metal Alchemist and you like slice of life like me, you should check out that mangaka's other work, Silver Spoon, which also has very good characters, but I haven't read it in like 5 or 6 years and I need to catch up on it, so I can't name any of them, sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's really good. Other ones, I just watched The Incredibles. Helen, the wife in that, she's fucking awesome. Elastigirl. Because she's like a jet pilot and sneaks into an enemy base to do a bunch of cool stuff. She beats up a bunch of guys. She's a great mom. Like, just in Sonic Boom, which is a great show that everyone should watch. And I love it, which is written super well. Not the games are not as amazing nearly, but the show is fantastic. And there's a scene where they're all playing soccer together, and Amy, who is the only no, she's not the only girl on the team. Styx is there too, but she's like playing against the guys' team, and she hits the ball into the net.
It all comes down to this one penalty kick. Can the young woman break the glass ceiling and prove once and for all that a female can be just as good an athlete as a male?
You know, Amy, anytime someone calls attention to the breaking of gender rules, it ultimately undermines the concept of gender equality by implying that this is an exception and not the status quo. What? Just because I'm a meathead doesn't mean I'm not a feminist.
And it's so good. It is the best scene in that entire show, and that show has a lot of good scenes. This is another good point. Your character needs to have a purpose. And this doesn't mean like their purpose in life or whatever. In fact, that can be their flaw or their goal, where they don't have one and want one.
Yeah.
Or don't have one and are despondent and hate society at night in the woods. But at everybody at night in the woods.
It happens.
We already talked about little girl from JoJo who is just around to either like be rescued or whatever. Every character should be in your story for a reason. I'm trying to think of an example of like, why were they there at all? I don't want to use JoJo again, but I will. So JoJo's Bizarre Adventure has 5 protagonists in the part 3, which is the part we were talking about earlier. Mm-hmm. And one of them is named Kakyoin.
Oh, yeah.
And Kakyoin should not be in the show. I don't dislike him necessarily. I don't like him because he's not interesting and he has almost no personality. If you like him, that's fine, but he's not a well-written character, objectively. And he is just around. He is just another guy that is around. He is not the smart guy. He's not the strong guy. He doesn't have any interesting dynamics with the other characters. He's kind of just there. Like, he's the first guy they recruit to their team after beating him, and he's like free of mind control from the evil villain. And then his motivation is just like, yeah, I guess you saved me. I'll hang out. And he kind of just hangs out.
Yeah, and that is the extent of his usefulness.
And realize that every time you have a character who is on screen or on the page, that is time that you are expecting the audience to dedicate to their existence. And you only have so much attention span and so much time and so many pages and so long in your programming block to get the story across that you want to tell. So why would you have anyone extraneous? You can have every one of your characters, if you like really have the time and you really have the passion, you should strive to make every single character good. Like everyone, even your like goofy bartender who just is like I wonder, like, you know, at the start of some show where you've got like a gang of teenagers and they're hanging out in their usual malt shop or whatever, like it's an Archie type thing.
Yeah.
It's just like, man, what are we gonna do this week? Oh, I heard there was something going down at the roller rink. I heard there was a murder. Really? Like, that character, he can be a character. Good example from a weird source. Scooby-Doo.
I knew it was going to be Scooby-Doo.
You knew it was gonna be Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo, Legend of the Phantosaur. I had to remember which movie. At the start of that movie, they've just come home from the hospital because Shaggy's been diagnosed with a fear disease and he can't get scared anymore, so they can't go on more adventures for an indefinite period of time. And they are at a little diner, and they're like, "What's going on, Shaky Joe?" And there's this insane guy in the back of the bar who's just like, "I don't know, man. Maybe you should go down to the roller rink. There was a murder." And he's got so much personality in his voice, and he's like accidentally spilling coffee everywhere. And by virtue of them just going, "Oh, it's Shaky Joe," and him being a weird shaky guy, that's funny. That's neat. That's an extra moment of good you just threw in. And that can be all there is to his character. Like, we don't need Shaky Joe's backstory. We don't even really need Shaky Joe's want, other than I would like to keep working at my restaurant because it makes me money.
Yeah.
So I'd like to be nice to my patrons. That's enough. But like, you can always put in that extra bit of personality, especially in regards to like video games and tabletop RPGs and stuff like that.
Yep.
Anytime you just have like, okay, there needs to be someone who directs them to go over here, or someone who tells them about the kidnapping or something, all those guys can be good. Or say you have like, well, I kind of want like a princess character, and like, yeah, she'll be like a minor character. It doesn't really matter. She matters. Give her a personality. Make her interesting.
Oh yeah, you do yourself a favor. Make the princess interesting. So there's like any reason to do anything with her.
Did you have any? I know. You and Keen ran a module.
Oh my god, yeah. So I'm obviously like. Tabletop RPGs are a little different than like writing.
A little, but you do still need to generate characters.
You still need to generate a lot of characters for it, and they need to have their purposes and wants and all that jazz. There are 5 or 6 characters that you meet in the beginning of this module that you don't need at all. You can combine most of these people because their entire purpose is to just pop up and say, "Hey, did you hear about this one gang?" And they don't have a personality. That's like the extent. That's the extent of their personality. And then you'll go over and find that gang. And you meet their leader, and their leader's like, "Hey, did you know that we didn't do that? It was so-and-so." "Oh, okay." So then you walk across the street and talk to so-and-so, and it's like, "Hey, I didn't really do this. It was another guy." It's like, oh my God. All you're doing is going from point A to point B, and it's not even like talking to anyone fun or exciting or interesting. If anything, it should be you meet one guy who's like, "You know what? I'm pretty sure it was these guys over here that did this. And the reason I know that is because I was involved with so-and-so." So you can combine like guy A with gang leader B and then just go straight to the problem. Like, you can just skip all this extra bullshit.
If you can find any way to take a character who is like maybe not up to speed, and like your goal should be, if you notice, oh hey, my story does have a character like that, how do I fix them? Well, there's a number of ways. You can my favorite thing to do is see if you can combine them with another character. So I'll do a hypothetical example. This is gonna be a little hard off the top of my head, so let's go back to Herbert Steele. Let's get
Herbert
some
Steele,
extras.
what's going on with him?
So let's get some extras in Herbert Steele's story. I'm gonna add a flower shop character who he visits. Let's say Herbert likes flowers. Maybe his wife started liking flowers, and he got kind of into it. It's like Zen for him.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it like soothes him, and yeah. Maybe the first time they started gardening together, his wife was like, "You know what? You help me out with all this cool stuff, and you've been doing really good. How about you decide what our next garden looks like?" And he's like, "Oh crap, I don't know anything about flowers." And when he gets there, he meets who, I guess.
Oh yeah, let's give her a name. Let's be I was gonna say let's be lazy and name her Rose, but I feel like we can do one better than that. You know what? Let's name her Cherry.
Oh, I like
Cherry,
that.
the flower shop girl.
Yeah.
And I'm picturing Cherry myself as like a very short, little, squat, cute old lady.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I get a feeling that she likes to tease him a little bit, but it's always like in a very playful way, and it's never just like, oh, a man gardening. That's like, it's more just like, you think those are petunias, and like it's just like ripping on him in that way, and it's just like, oh, okay, this is what you really need.
Like at first he's just like terrible at doing the gardening, and so say we have that character, we have Cherry. And let's say we also have another character. I'm gonna name him David. So it's like David, but there's like an E with an accent on it at the end. So David is his informant. He used to work with David, and now he's like, David kind of just like, you know, you slip him some money and he tells you stuff. Now, let's say at the start of this, David doesn't really have a lot of personality, but there's like 2 or 3 scenes where he runs into David. Maybe one in a flashback when he was like 30 and 2 when he's like 60. So instead of going, okay, how can we make David more interesting? Which, of course, you can do. That's a totally fine course of action. You could maybe go, what if we cut David and Cherry was his informant? Maybe that's another way they could have met. Like either... Officer Steele, you're gonna go meet with our informant. It's like, what, a flower shop? This is a flashback, so I haven't grown in my character yet to respect this as much as I do in my old age. And obviously, you would never say it like that. And like, again, you don't. If you want an example of what a character does instead of what a character says. It could, instead of like him walking in and be like, huh, flowers, whatever, he could just kind of like, you know, have a couple of like furtive glances of like, ugh, like what, why would someone do this? Maybe he hasn't met his wife yet and he hasn't learned the joys of it. But like, say that's the informant. So now Cherry is the informant. That gives them a strengthened dynamic because whatever good stuff, like say you had like 2 or 3 okay ideas floating around for David, but you couldn't really figure him out. Give him to Cherry. Now Cherry has gone from a like, yeah, not a bad idea for a character to a really good one, and she's way more solid, and you've shortened the cast you need, which can save you money if you're doing like voice related projects or animation. And also, it's just a tighter experience and a tighter story. And well, a smaller cast isn't always good. A smaller lead cast usually is, especially if it's like a movie, which I believe this is a movie, right? Like that's what we're doing.
Yeah, this is probably a like a Michael Bay action movie.
Oh, not Michael. The fact that our main character has like already passed that Michael Bay point.
Oh no. We had someone else write this. He's just the guy who's funding it, making things blow up.
All right, so I'm going to pretend it's in a universe where Michael Bay isn't involved with the production of this movie, so I can feel better about it. All right, we got Michael May, everyone's favorite.
We're good at writing.
We're great at this. So, like that's a good way. You've just axed a character that you had problems with. And I'll give some examples, because this is another big thing. This is one of my favorite writing tips. It's kind of a weird one. So anytime I run into a problem, I like to take a character and flip them entirely, like 100% swap their personality to the exact opposite of what it was before. Because, and then imagine the story like that with all the same beats, and try and go like, okay, well, like if Cherry was a jerk, then like how would that change things? And also what would be different? Like it highlights what made her good before, and it might, you never know, you might bump into some cool new ideas. So I'll give at least one example from, I have a webcomic called Cornucopia. This is a character who will not show up for at least a decade for sure. There is a character named Jetsam. There is a group of people who need to be found at one point in this, and he is one of them, and he is a prince, and he is the worst. When I was writing him, because I knew I needed a group of people. I don't want to give any spoilers, so I'm going to make up most of this except the writing-related things. So let's say we needed to find 3 people, and I needed 3. That number was important. So, and I had the other 2, and I liked them a lot. And then I had this other guy, and it's like, yeah, I'll have like a prince, and maybe he can be like a surfer. I'll come back to him later. And I kept coming back to him later. I never had any ideas. And I was like, why do people like him in universe? I hate this guy. I can't figure out what to do with him. What if I just made him unlikable? Okay, now he's unlikable, but why would they like hang out with him if he was the worst? Like, he went from like chill surfer dude to like chill, but now like misogynistic and incredibly selfish and a pervert, and like literally how I write him, because I have script for him, is okay, someone said something to him, what is the worst thing he could say right now? And that is all of his dialogue. And obviously in universe, he's terrible, but I like him because I was like, but why would they hang out with him? What if they had to hang out with him? Like, what if, oh, okay, I have an idea. So a lot of people need to collect these 3 people. There's a couple groups. There's like a few groups. There's 3. So they need these people. What if these groups keep they keep kidnapping him, but they all hate him. So like he keeps getting kidnapped and hot potatoed between all the main characters, and he's the thing they all need, but the thing none of them want. Okay, that's kind of a fun character thing in universe. And like you'd be surprised what you can come up with, is what I'm saying, if you flip a thing on its head and then go, okay, if I remove half of these traits, how do I make the other half work? Or if I remove half of these traits, what else can I just fill them with? I'll just throw stuff at a wall and see what sticks. If you are open to change for characters and story structure, it is almost always for the better after you experiment for a little while. And that's one of my favorite ways to figure out problem characters. Like, I'll do one more example. There's a couple protagonists in Cornucopia. One of them is like, he's sort of the political character. He's like a very like in a Downton Abbey kind of world, in like the B plot, if you know what I mean. And while everyone else is like, oh, we got to fight a dragon or whatever, he's like, okay, I need to make it so these 2 countries don't fight each other. And you occasionally cut to him, but he didn't really have a villain. And I was like, okay, I'll give him a villain. Let's say it's like an old man who's just a jerk from a different country, because that country doesn't have any lead characters, and they fight. And I was bored with the old man, so like a year later, I was like, well, I want them to have a better dynamic. What if it's the same age as this guy? And you know what? I'm going to make the old man a girl, because I don't have enough female protagonists right now. Or not protagonists. I don't have enough female leads right now. And I ended up liking that dynamic a lot. And after a while, just because I randomly changed her completely. And also, the old man had a bodyguard who was a really minor character. And they were dating. And I like way later on, I was like, oh crap, he was dating that bodyguard. I guess the girl is dating her now. All right, they can be a couple. And they got developed from there after I flipped their characters entirely. And they are now 2 of my favorite characters I've ever written, just because I've completely changed up their role.
Yeah, no, I totally get that, where you might have all these ideas, you've written them all out, and you're like, yeah, this is great. If something's not working, it's okay to change it. There's nothing wrong with that. And in fact, it's encouraged.
It's also important to go like, if someone's like, okay, well, I see you have a problem with X point in your story. Yeah, I'm having some issues with that. Okay, so why are they doing that? Well, they need that item to rescue the princess.
Does that item
do they
need to exist?
Do they really need that item? I mean, I kind of wanted them to go to like a swamp. I wanted a swamp scene. Well, can you put anything? Take the princess and put her in a swamp. Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Or you could even do like, I really want a swamp scene. How about the princess just gets out on her own and does some other stuff, and she becomes a different character? Well, that wouldn't. No, actually. Oh shit, that's actually a really good idea. Like, that happens all the time when I'm brainstorming with other people about their stories. So be flexible.
That would actually be really fun, just like the buildup of like, we gotta save the princess, and they get there and the cell's empty, like, what? And it's just a flashback of like, where did she go? And like the party's like, oh, they must have took her somewhere else. It's like, nope, she just left because she was sick of waiting for you guys. She's like, you are too fucking slow. I'm gonna do this myself.
Yeah. Let's do another question. Ooh, here's a fun one. And I feel like you haven't been talking enough, and I bet you have some hard opinions on this.
Uh-oh.
What are some character flaws you would suggest avoiding when generating your character or their arc?
Oh. You know who's not a fun character? Lone Wolf. I hate Lone Wolf. Why the fuck is he in your party if he doesn't want to be there? The guy who's always like, I could have done this myself. Then why don't you just go on your own, mate? All right, we don't need you. We clearly don't.
And again, that can be done well, but yeah, if you're just having a lone wolf to have a lone wolf, don't. Ooh, forgot a big thing earlier. If you ever just have a thing, and this is on the like, well, maybe you should cut stuff if it's not working too well. Never, ever, ever have a love interest because you think you should have one.
You don't need it. You don't need it.
You do not need it at all.
Now, it's okay if, like, while you're writing, you're like, oh, you know what? Maybe these two would hook up. Do not, your characters, when you're first writing them, they should not be described as, well, you know what? They're strong and they're smart and they love so-and-so. No, they don't yet. You have not developed that character enough. In the first few bullet points of their description should not be loving someone else yet. They have not earned that.
If you want another example from Cornucopia, this time with characters that are available for public consumption already. Hiccup is the name of the main character, and Lily is the lead female character. When I started writing this about 8 years ago, they were a couple, and then as I wrote them longer and longer, I was like, they developed their own personalities more and more because I learned how to write and not be 12. I was like, hey, this relationship makes almost no sense and I hate it. And a friend of mine was like, well, you know that other girl that right now Hiccup kind of like broke up with a while ago. Why did they break up? And I was like, I don't actually know. I just wrote her to be his ex-girlfriend. He's like, well, yeah, you wrote her a personality that fits him perfectly. So why aren't they together? And I was like,
shit.
Yes, you are right. Good point. So now the idea of Lily and Hiccup being together makes me want to throw up. And there's a much better love interest for him down the road, and I like their relationship a lot. So again, be open to change, I guess.
Yep. Yeah. What are some other just like
other big flaws?
Other big flaws.
I'm not a fan of any character who like refuses to listen or like is trying to be rebellious or gets into trouble a lot after other characters have explicitly gone, don't do that. And I don't mean like you've got like a rebellious punk as your main character, and again there's themes of like, you know, intergenerational relationships or whatever. It's like, I don't respect authority, so I'm gonna go, you know, take a bat to a mailbox because that's how I get my kicks or whatever. But like, that's fine. What I'm talking about is if you have a group of characters and one of them is like, oh, gee, I don't think we should go into the dark tunnel where I see like wolves and crap that are going to kill us. And you know what? We should keep coming back to Herbert Steele. So Herbert Steele, let's make up a character that got cut from Herbert Steele because he was awful. Herbert Steele has a young ward, a guy who was like he was training him, and he was just like, all right, now so see that underpass? There's a bunch of drug deals that go on under there. We're not gonna go down there right now because we're cops and they'll know we're cops. And you know, like the camera moves and it turns back and the young ward is like already walked over there. And like he just keeps doing that and they never learn. That's the big thing. Almost every single flaw can be done well. Yeah. But if it never changes, it is so frustrating. I hate it when characters don't change. And sometimes people don't change and that is more accurate. But no, it can also be very, very annoying as an audience if the same character keeps getting into trouble over and over again.
Yeah, the really stubborn character that refuses to listen. It's like, why are you're learning from this guy? Why are you not listening to them? That doesn't make any sense at all. Also, he's given you all the evidence of why this is a bad idea. So don't do it.
I have another good one, and then it transitions into a main topic I wanted to talk about. So if you ever have to, whether you're doing a like a tabletop party, video game party, or a show or a book, if two of your core characters hate each other and they are on the same team, resolve that quick.
Yep.
Because it is not fun to watch two people bickering.
Yeah, it's funny early on, but that shit needs to get straightened out, because if they're going to be on a long epic adventure together and they never sort their shit out, why are they with each other? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. So, and the thing I wanted to transition into that is the importance of character dynamics. Oh, and right here at the top, they hate each other isn't a good one, nope. Is what I have written. If you have a main cast, consider everyone's relationship to each other if they are talking frequently. Every time two characters interact, that is an excuse to show off their personalities. And just like in real life, how like when I'm talking to Will, I like a little more relaxed. It's like a little goofier. We come up with stupid shit like Herbert Steele. But then like another friend of ours, Aram. When I'm talking with Aram, I am way more like not like on my guard sounds completely wrong. Like I'm
Professional?
scared of him. Like not even professional, but like Aram is a very well-spoken gentleman. So I also like up my vocabulary at which I speak. Like you have slightly different personas of yourself for everyone you meet, and your characters can do the same. Like so, I'm trying to think of like fun, stupid dynamics. I'll try and make like it'll be just as hard to like make some up as to think of two good ones right now. So, Herbert Steele, let's say, this is the spin-off show that's terrible and got canceled after one season, where it's
Planet
Herbert Steele's
Herbert.
Plan Herbert? I hate that. All right, so in Plan Herbert, let's say there's 4 main characters. So you've got Plan Herbert, and let's say he's still in his 60s. You've got the spunky new cop who's like hot on the scene and really wants to be, you know, she wants to make a difference, and she's a Spitfire. And not even like I'm gonna do things my own way, but like police work. She's that kind of person. So I'm just gonna call her Spitfire because it's easy. I'll call them their archetypes. Then we got Chunk. We got the big guy. We got the arbitrary guy, and like obviously you can always make your characters more interesting than this. But
Yes.
for the sake of example, so we got Chunk, and he's like the big dude who, you know, sits at the computers and does all the new age forensics and figures stuff out through the internet, which clearly the writers of the show aren't familiar with, so it never makes any sense.
Nope.
And then we need a 4th one. So let's say we got a kid. Let's just make this worse. You know, let's say it's Herbert's kid. Let's say this is even further in the future, and he has a son. He's got a young son that hangs around the office. So obviously let's take the son, because that's actually the easiest way to have different dynamics, and you can explore different facets of their characters. So the son, just gonna call him Son. Son has a relationship with Herbert. So this is Mini Steel. I'm gonna call him Rivet. So this is Rivet.
Excellent.
And Rivet looks up to his dad. Rivet thinks his dad is the coolest guy ever. He used to be a police officer, and Steele's a little worried that it's like, oh man, like I did some bad stuff in the past. I don't want him to find out about that, but I also want him to have a good sense of justice. So like, yeah, I'll let him hang around. So it's a very cautious optimism on one side, and then a very like, yeah, Dad, you're the coolest. But he's also like, yeah, you can't come out on police stuff with us. Whereas let's say Rivet has a relationship with Firebrand, where she's like, yeah, kid, come on a stakeout with me. And they get like burgers and stuff, and they hang
Here's a gun.
Yeah, and like she's irresponsible, and you know what'd be even great? Let's make Rivet let's make Rivet a good character. You know what? So Rivet is the responsible one. Like so, Firebrand's an idiot, and he's like, here's a gun. He's like, that's not even how you hold a gun, you dope. My dad showed me, and he's like excellent with everything.
Yeah,
but like maybe he's like timid about like he loves behind the desk work police stuff, but is like timid about field stuff. But she and Firebrand's like, no, come out. We'll like swap stories. It'll be cool. I'll do all the stuff your dad doesn't do. And she's like, and Rivet's like, oh, you will? That's awesome. I'll do that with you. And then maybe Rivet likes video games, and he has that in common with Chunk. And Rivet and Chunk kind of talk sometimes about games they've been playing recently. So even though there's a huge like age gap, they've got that thing.
Yeah.
And it's also really quick, because I've been talking a lot and want to let you get it on this stupid session. It is also okay to have, like, say you've got a cast of 4, so that's like, I don't know, 12 to 16 dynamics. Math is hard. That's a lot of dynamics you could have there.
Yeah.
It is fine to just have 2 of those characters kind of not hang out when they're outside of a group.
Oh, totally.
Like, let's say like Chunk and Firebrand probably don't have a lot in common. They're like work buddies, and then outside of that, they don't talk. Like, they like each other, and they're good coworkers, but like, you know, they don't have a lot in common. And that's totally okay.
And you can use that to your advantage, actually, and have a lot of fun with that, because you can always have those fun episodes of like, these 2 never hang out. Now they have to work together. And it's not they hate each other, because they just don't understand each other. And that's fun. That can be a fun dynamic to have, and maybe it can help grow their characters more. So
a really good show to watch for that. Brooklyn Nine-Nine is a more modern show that's still going, that's pretty good about it. It's got an ensemble comedy cast, and all of them have some dynamic with each other that are fun to watch. Community, another really good show about that. It's got a main cast of 7 for most of its run, and I think all of them have at least one episode with each other where it's like they are a pair. and it's fun to explore what they have in common or how they butt heads.
Yeah.
It's neat.
Yep.
So counter example of why this is bad. In my Cowboy Bebop video, I poked fun at how the cast never interacts, and I hate that. I think all 4 characters who are the leads of Cowboy Bebop are really well-written characters. I think all of them are good characters. They are a terrible party and make no sense together.
Nope.
I wish it's, if you haven't seen it, there's like the kind of a lone wolf bounty hunter guy. Then there's the ship's like team dad ex-cop. There's Herbert Steele. Then there's like the gambling woman who no one can keep track of, who's kind of a troublemaker and refuses to cooperate. And then there's just this insane little girl who's a hacker. And I like all of them individually, but none of them talk to each other or have a cool dynamic, except sometimes Spike and Jet, but not really. And if that's the case, then don't put them together. Their wants don't make any sense, because if their want, which it is in this show, is we want money and to bounty hunt and we'll do better together, they don't. They never catch anyone in that show, so it doesn't make any sense, especially because 2 of the characters are like drifters. So why would they stay in this crappy ship with no food?
Yeah. And I mean, most of them hate each other.
Yeah, no, there is not a lot of love on that ship. Like if if I could go back in time and rearrange TV shows, if Cowboy Bebop was a show with all 4 of those main characters, but it swapped perspectives like Baccano, that would be amazing. Like, it's like, starts with a Spike episode. Then there's a Jet episode where he investigates the guy Spike just murdered. And then there's like, and then you notice like there was this woman in the background of the first 2 episodes. Oh, that's Faye. And the 3rd episode is hers. And it's about them crisscrossing, because that show's all about exploring the world that they've created. And that's neat.
Yeah.
But they don't interact together. It's like they wanted to tell 3 separate stories and 3 separate pasts, but they like were just separate, and they put all 3 of them on a ship.
Yeah. I think that would have been a way better way of telling that story. And it would also be fun to just see them, like how Spike's actions made it so that Jet and Faye had to work together for an episode. And then because Ed causes problems, it forces Jet and Spike to work together. And maybe even Faye pops in and causes even more problems, because mix it up.
Just example of like how that could be fun. One of my favorite small moments from that show is Jet, who is like super down to earth and a very like, he's a pretty serious guy. He is trying to, they know that like their bounty they're trying to catch is a kid in a hospital who's like running an evil computer program, basically. So he tries sneaking in, and he takes Ed and dresses her up in a dress, which she never wears. And they're both doing this terrible father-daughter act. Like, we have to see this kid. He's a member of our family. But it works, and it's funny to see them in this weird scenario together, because they're together, and you get to see how they work together.
Yeah.
And you don't get that normally. So like character dynamics are so important. They're just an excuse to show off not 1 but 2 guys or more. It's great. One other point on that before maybe another question. If you have a party of 5 people and all of them hate each other, then why are they together? If one of the party members, like, if they sympathize with the villains, like if the lone wolf's like, maybe I should be with them or whatever, why isn't he?
You should have that guy capped instantly to prove a point, which would be hysterical in my opinion.
That would be good. I'd be down for that. That'd be a fun scene.
Maybe I should be with the villain. Instantly is shot in the head. Whoa! And like it proves right there that one of the guys has no problem killing. Is like, hey, I'm gonna get this bad guy no matter what. And if any of you motherfuckers sympathize with him, I will take you out.
All right, that's a good enough transition to the other villain question, which I push back to here. How should affable villains be handled? Villains that aren't necessarily evil, or at least seem normal but do vile things. This person listed Kira, who I assume they mean Kira Yoshikage from JoJo, who I would not list as an affable villain. He's likable, but he's not an affable person even a little.
There's a big difference between being a likable villain and an affable villain.
Yeah, like if anyone listening to this has watched Anime Campaign, Naven is a super affable villain. He's a very pleasant guy. He is just an antagonist.
Yeah.
The big thing is, how should they be handled? Again, just think about their wants and desires and actions and make them humans. Make them humans that oppose the good guys and give them a good reason. That's
yeah,
really it.
Yeah.
Also give them a personality. And my favorite thing to do, anytime you get to see Team Bad Guy hanging out and just chilling is so fun.
Yeah.
Like there is, I can't think of a single example where I hated getting to see the bad guys chill out together. And if you can find a way to say you've got like the main bad guy and he's got 3 minions, like 3 big minions, and then they have like random stormtrooper subordinates.
Yeah, of course.
If you can think of any ways that like, here's just, after a tough day of destroying planets or whatever, it's just like, you want to go out and get some dinner? Yeah. And there's just a scene of them at a diner and they're like world destroying assholes, but they're at a diner hanging out. That's hilarious. And that is like, I can guarantee you, because everyone loves villains, that is going to be one of the most popular scenes in your work.
I just love the idea of like this big bad villain. Like they finish dinner. It's like, you know what? Our waitress was great. I'm going to give her a $10 tip. That was really good. She was wonderful. And like you just see this other side of him like, what the fuck? He like killed thousands of people. And he's like, you know what? She kept my drink filled. She deserves a good tip.
Like that's great. Cause it's like, first of all, it's funny. Second of all, it's like, oh, so like, even if he's literally crazy or a sociopath, just like, that's the obligation. She did me a solid. And like, maybe he would have like shot her if she messed up or whatever. But like, also, give them depth. Like, have them react like people.
I like the idea that if your villain if you take all the scenes where he's being a bad guy and you pull them away and you show all the scenes where he's just talking to people and at the diner or whatever, and you can't get a full grasp if he's evil or not, that's most likely going to be a pretty solid, like, affable villain, because they just come off as just another person in the world. They're just living their life and they just happen to be a mad scientist in the process.
Yeah. And like, I know this sounds like it could be a comedy, or it should be a comedy. Not even really. Like, Fargo, the movie, if you've ever seen it. The bad guys are Steve Buscemi, and I don't remember the other actor's name. He's a tall blonde guy, who's like very quiet. There's a bunch of scenes where it just cuts to them, like, and Steve Buscemi's like trying to chat with the other guy, and he gives him fucking nothing to work with. And like, they don't really like each other, but they have an interesting dynamic, and they do have a dynamic. And even in the end, the blonde guy, sorry if you haven't seen it, spoilers. The blonde guy, there's like a famous scene, he throws Steve Buscemi into a wood chipper and kills him. And there's like, but like even before that, it made sense they were working together.
Yeah.
And like, even though he did do the, like, you failed me for the last time kind of that sort of trope, it was still neat to see them as people. Even if they were like awful people, it was still cool to see them that way.
I like a lot of Quentin Tarantino movies for that. Oh, have you seen Inglourious Bastards? Because
I have.
Okay.
I'm not a fan, but I know what you're talking about.
Okay. And that's fair. I can definitely see why it's not enjoyable, but I'm drawing a Christoph Waltz character.
Is he the affable Nazi?
He is the affable Nazi, which is the worst sentence ever.
Oh my God. With that movie, the reason I don't like that movie, and maybe this is the too far mark for some people, is I thought the main characters, even though I agreed with their cause, were so violent and mean-spirited that by the end I was like I should not be sympathizing with Nazis like more than the protagonists.
Well, I think that's the reason it was written that way, was to just flip it on its head. But no, I do agree. I do understand. But yeah, no, I hate this guy for what he's doing. I despise his morals. I despise everything about him as what he is. But god damn it, he's a likable guy. He's just like a genuinely amusing, funny fellow. And he's very pleasant to everyone else. And that's a good way to have an affable villain.
Yeah.
Yep.
So know what to not include in your story. Earlier we used this example of like, oh, I really want a swamp or whatever. Like, cool. But like, say you've already got kind of a stuffed story. Like, there's a lot going on. And like, it could all be good. And maybe the idea you have for a swamp episode or whatever, really cool idea. Maybe not. Maybe you shouldn't do it. Because if you stuff everything in there, like, there is a point where you need to make cuts.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. But no matter what you do, like, a show we watch is how I will phrase that.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Ruby, Rooster Teeth's Ruby. We watch and either enjoy or genuinely or enjoy riffing on Ruby, depending on what season it is.
Yep.
And RWBY is a show that is one of the worst I've ever seen in regards to this, because every cool idea the production team or the fight director in the first few seasons had got into the show, and it is so overburdened. For anyone who hasn't seen it, there's 4 main characters, there's 4 main secondary characters, and they're in a school and they teach kids how to fight and do cool anime fights, basically.
Yep.
And they fight monsters. And you meet these 4, and then you meet like the other 4, and then instead of going into any of them, you just keep meeting these tertiary characters. So it's like, hey, here's a girl with like cool Pinocchio puppet powers, and she's a robot. And here's a rabbit girl who can copy other people's powers. And here's that background team the fans liked drawing. No, you need to introduce me to your main cast. I don't know anything about them yet. And your story becomes really overstuffed, and the pacing gets messed up. You need to know when to say, all right, that's too much.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. I could not agree more.
And if you don't use an idea, don't worry. You can put it in other projects. Like for me, Anime Campaign was entirely a project. Like almost every main character that I played as an NPC was a character from a different project. That I was like, I love this character. I got nothing else in this this project went under, or hey, I never got to do this in this project I wanted to. I'll put it in Anime Campaign. And that was really fun. Because you do get that, like, that gives you more time to work on stuff. So there's nothing wrong with taking a good idea you like and shelving it for later. But it is important not to overburden your own story.
Yep, absolutely.
Think even if you really like them, like, do they need to be there? Could they be cut? Could what they do be done by anyone else? Like, if you've got Herbert Steele and you got this great idea for like say you got this cool lady badass cop, like covered in scars. She is just awesome. And she was like his mentor or something. And she gets gunned down or whatever.
Yeah.
And blah, blah, blah. But like also, there's like kind of a subplot with her, and it sort of takes away from the film because it's like not really the focus. Because it's about his old life, and this is sort of moving on from what Herbert Steele has already learned. And it's like, I liked her, but why was she in the movie? Like, that's the kind of idea that you might want to be like, if you're the writer of Herbert Steele, go like, okay, maybe we could make her, if we ever get a sequel, I can put her in the sequel. And maybe she doesn't have to be the mentor. Maybe she could be the main villain. That could be fun.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
Maybe, like, or if we get like a spinoff, or maybe, like, it would just be good to not have her in there. Because you don't want to shove something in, because if you shove something extra in, then, like, you're shoving other stuff out, and like think of it like a big jar of rocks. Like you got to put all your core stuff in there first, then you can fill it with the sand that fills in the cracks. That's all the good stuff. And then it's like, okay, but I really want this cool lady. I want the scarred lady. And you like wedge her in there, and the glass is going to crack a little, and she's going to be kind of like outside the jar a little bit. Like she's not even as good as she could have been.
It's better to just remove a good idea and put it in something else to actually make it great instead of just shoving it in and wasting it, because now you can't use it. You've wasted it.
There's a good saying by Kurt Vonnegut, who is an excellent writer. Use the time of a total stranger in a way that he or she will not feel their time was wasted. So don't add anything that is just there. Though, that being said, you should also write what you want to write. Like, this is another facet of don't just include a love interest cuz.
Yeah.
Like, if you follow any of my stuff, especially like Anime Campaign, or as it will become evident, Cornucopia, I really like goofy, fluffy, not even like low stakes, but just kind of like
Lighthearted.
Lighthearted, thank you. That's the word I was looking for. I was gonna say like charming, but that's an especially self-congratulatory
Well, no, I mean,
word.
but I see what you mean, though.
Yeah, but like lighthearted. I love lighthearted stuff. I love female antagonists.
Yep.
So that's why Anime Campaign has 3 of them, because I think they're great. And I put them in a bunch of the story. I really like affable villains. So Naven is a really, really affable villain. He's just an antagonist or whatever. And Will also has things that Will likes that he puts in Will things.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of the opposite. I love dark and gritty. I like things to be not happy. I like it when things get sad. Don't get me wrong. I love getting the jokes in there and the silliness, but Jello will watch Silver Spoon. I'll watch Berserk. Let's put it that way.
I will watch Kobayashi Dragon Maid and Bomberman Jetters. Those are my animes. Oh, and I think the best, like, this is the thing I like anime as an example, is Daily Lives of High School Boys.
Yeah,
just like
and,
this.
Yeah, and like those are things that I also enjoy. but it's not something that I enjoy creating because I don't feel like I'm good at it, you know?
The other thing is, you should be able to find something you like about every one of your characters, even if it's just their general role in the story. Like I mentioned the character earlier in Cornucopia who is just awful on purpose. I love his role in a meta sense. I think that's really funny, and I can't wait to like see how he plays off of other people who are normally like, they're super pleasant, but only against him are they angry because he's the worst. So you get to see these people being angry, character dynamics.
Ooh.
But like, if you find that there's like something you're not liking about a character, or it's like, yeah, I need a villain, but like, I don't know, he's like a big armor with like glowy eyes and he rides a dragon and he's evil. Like, I don't know. Like, don't do that. Make a villain you like. Like, even take just a character, like just be like, okay, he wants the orbs of power to destroy the world. I don't like big evil armor villains. You know what I like? I like goofy, like, child characters. I'm gonna make my villain an 8-year-old and they're still gonna be trying to destroy the world. Go for it. Like, that's way more interesting. And also, this is just a fact of life. No one will write the things that you like as well as you will.
Yeah, no, it's very true.
Give your readers as much information as soon as possible. And that doesn't mean this is more of a story structure character arc thing. If I am 300 pages into a comic series, I don't want to still be asking what someone's deal is. And that doesn't mean you need to tell me all of their deal, but you need to hint to me, at least. Like, I don't want to feel in the dark. It feels like you're wasting my time. And that doesn't mean, like, ruin a spoiler or whatever. So let's say we've got Herbert Steele, and we've been talking about these flashback scenes he has to when he was, like, an asshole with dentures. So maybe, like, give me one of those early on, like, just a really small one, and be like, what was that? Is this the same guy? Oh my gosh, he's so nice now. Is he still evil? Or, like, is he still a jerk?
Yeah.
What? And then, like, every like 15 minutes, there's, like, another 5-minute flashback. It's like, oh, okay, I get it now. That's what that was, or whatever. Like, pace your reveals. The audience should always feel like they're learning more about your character and not that they're being strung along and they still don't know.
Yeah. Oh man, it's especially bad if it's like your character has a secret bloodline technique. The reader knows this shit and they've known it for a long time, but no one addresses it until like 40 episodes in. It's like, oh, you didn't know that you've actually got the blood of a Tamagotchi? It's like, oh, is that what it is? Okay, I've been fucking dealing with this shit for 40 episodes and this is our reveal? And they only just now realize it?
The problem is, if you are keeping a lot from people, not only are they not going to think your character's great, because they'll be like, maybe they'll get there. If your reveal isn't great or it isn't enough, because like the longer you build it up, the better it has to be, buddy, if you're not given any other information. If that reveal isn't interesting, oh my God, is it disappointing? And are people going to be angry?
Yep.
They'll be like, that's it? He's a Tamagotchi? I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a few more questions and then we'll call it. What do you think is the best way to develop multiple characters with similar themes, but not make a story feel rehashed? Not sure if that means like, okay, let's say I have Herbert Steele and Herbert Titanium and Titanium White.
Oh, okay.
And, so like they're very similar characters and I've written this like similar movies. So how do I make them different? In your head, this is my answer to this. Exacerbate the danger in their situation, like throw problems at them in a think tank and really look at how they'll react differently to them. Like figure out what makes their story unique. And if there's not enough there that is unique, it might not be worth telling or it might need a pretty big overhaul. So an example of this, I was talking with Civ because I plan to eventually write Anime Campaign into something, hopefully. And I was like, yeah, I want Molly and Trixie, Civ's character, to both be focal because they are endgame party members and they are both part of this little unit. And I was like, they're pretty similar at a glance though, you know, like they're both soft spoken, probably a little more mature than they'd like to be little girls who have had kind of crappy family situations. And they're both low energy characters who have similar voices. Like if I do a Trixie impression, it's just my Molly voice. But So I was like, okay, well, what's the difference between them? And I kept like talking with Civ, and I was like, okay, say this happens to them. What is the big difference or whatever? So like, okay, well, in this situation, Molly would go along with this bad situation because she's like, well, this might as well happen. She's just so broken at this point, and like, she'll be able to handle it, but like, you know, she's just tired all the time. Whereas Trixie will be more hesitant and annoyed and maybe like snap back a little or not do it or do a crime. And like we did that for a while and eventually came up with a pretty good list of differences that I'm happy with. But that's just a good way to maybe do that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's really nothing else for me to add on that. That just covers it.
Here's a good question. How do you make a character push a story along without needing a story device to push the story? Character action should always be the thing that pushes a story forward. The plot device should never push a story. It should always be what the character wants. They either want the plot device or the plot device, oh, it's a powerful orb, but it kills everyone who touches it. And they need to they need to go tell someone or something. Why are they going after this orb? Why does it matter? When Herbert Steele finds diamond dentures that he stole and had custom made in what is the worst sequel I can imagine, like, it's not even that bad to this is I think it's actually a Pixar rule of thumb I've seen before, which they don't always follow, but it's a good rule, which is characters. It is okay for a character to be put in danger by coincidence or by a plot device, but they should never get out of danger that way.
Absolutely.
It's actually not that big a deal to have your plot pushed along, but make sure your characters want it to continue in the way you want it to continue. Figure out why they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah, because otherwise, why are we even telling the story? If the people that are involved with it don't want to be involved with it or aren't actively trying to progress things.
Another question: how do you get past writer's block? They specifically asked when working on a character arc. I find personally I write in little bursts, and if I'm not feeling it, I don't write very long. But say this week I had to write so this is basically for JoJo, which is why I used it in so many examples. It's kind of hard to write that. Like some days I'm not really feeling it, but first of all, if you force yourself, you will get something. Also, just spackle something on a page. Like, say it's just like, okay, what was it called? Operation Herbert. What was the TV show?
Plan Herbert.
Plan Herbert. That's so much worse. Plan Herbert.
Well, originally I said Planet Herbert, and then you heard
Planet Herbert. Oh no, that's the even worse. That's the name of the theme park.
Oh, because he becomes like a hero, and oh my god. This show sucks.
This is awful. The movie's great, but the show, I don't know about it.
Happens.
And they couldn't get any of the big name actors to keep voicing it, so it's all like sound-alikes. So yeah, say I'm the writer for Plan Herbert, and this episode they're at Planet Herbert. Just start like literally writing anything.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, all right, like literally even if you do this verbatim, Herbert walks into a store and fucking smacks a guy across his big stupid face. My wife is dead, he yelled. That will get your brain moving more than sitting and doing nothing or going, well, I'm not really feeling it today, Will.
Yeah, no, absolutely. One of the other things that I do, this is like not even just characters, but this is just like writing in general. If I need to work on something, I will consume media that is in the same genre.
Oh yeah, I do that for everything.
That helps so much. See what other people have written and how they've handled things and go, oh, I could maybe take something like that and use it for so-and-so. And like just getting that little push can help so much.
And this is, I don't know if this actually like works scientifically, but I took a creativity class in college. Yeah. Whoa. But and one of the things my teacher suggested was anytime you have like what people call shower thoughts, write it down, because that will encourage, like you're essentially rewarding yourself in a weird way. You're validating the shower thought. Or anytime you're laying down in bed and it's like, blah, 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 Herbert Steele turns into a dinosaur. What? All right. And like any idea that comes, like that was a bad one, but any idea that comes into your head, because you have these small moments where, fun fact about creativity, there's a concept called microboredom, which is important to human brain stimulation, which is like, say you're standing outside waiting for something, or you're in an elevator waiting to go up to the next floor, which is one of the reasons phones are actually bad for you, because they always have you doing something actual. It is better to just take a breather sometimes and let your brain cells bump into each other and think of stupid stuff.
Yep.
That's why like you have shower thoughts. It's because your body isn't doing anything. Have some of those, encourage them, write them down, even if they're stupid. But yeah, the worst thing you can do is nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's even just for long car rides, because I have a long drive between my parents' house and where I normally live and all that jazz. And I just have like lyricless music if I do want to have anything in the background. Because if you've got like radio or a podcast, you're like actively engaged with that. But like music can give you a feeling and kind of get your brain rolling within whatever kind of fits that genre. So if you're listening to like a sad song, obviously you'll start having more like, oh, wouldn't it be sad if this kind of happened with the characters? Oh, wait, actually, that's a pretty good idea.
Oh, yeah. Every single time I write like a cutscene for Anime Campaign, for example, or a scene in Cornucopia, I always have music playing, like just instrumentals or anime BGMs or whatever. Like, usually it's also what music I've selected to play during that scene.
Yes.
Because it's like, oh, now I know what the vibe is. I do that sometimes before I act too, actually.
Yeah, no, it helps a lot. Music is very powerful.
And I'm gonna say this is our final question.
Sure.
Because I think this one's just gonna be fun for us.
Okay.
Are there any tropes you like to see or see in use for characters? What are some of your favorites?
Ooh. Why don't you go first? You probably got this already lined up.
I sure do. I love bodyguard crush. Anytime there is you've got like the rich lady and her cool sniper lady that follows her around with a big old gun and sunglasses. I love it when they're a couple. It's so cute. Anything like that. Bodyguard crush is cute. And also, I want the trope name for it, I think, is I'm a little out of date on TV tropes, so I might be wrong, is I want my beloved to be happy. Any character who is just infinitely selfless when it comes to
yeah.
Like at the end of A Tale of Two Cities, Charles Darnay Sidney Carton, the guy who looks like Charles Darnay. His sacrifice is really good. I love that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of I don't know if this really counts as a trope. I love dark situation, but the wrong people are there, which is like the really goofy characters that don't really understand what's happening or even give a shit.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh my God. And that's like entirely what Eben Ward is about. I present this like dark, gritty world and I'm like, all right, you guys make fun of it now because it's my favorite thing. I love that.
It's great. It's really entertaining. I kind of touched on this a little earlier. I love it anytime you have like a big high power, high fantasy level show or anime, and like the strong characters who can blow up buildings are just like having trouble like opening a door as they go in to get a milkshake. That is hysterical. I cannot think of a single situation like that, especially in like a shonen where you need a break between like the big fighting arcs or whatever. It's just like, let's go get food together. Let's hang out at the park and talk about girls. And then it's just like, I don't know what to do when I'm talking to a girl. Hard cut to that character, lifting a mountain. That's awesome to me. I love high-powered characters in situations where they're normal people.
Well, I mean, let's take, for example, in Dragon Ball Z, when they're learning to drive. That's amazing.
That's one of the best scenes in the entire franchise.
Yeah, because it's like these amazing, like they've saved the world a dozen times. They've died a dozen times. And they're having the worst time just driving a fucking car. And it's great. It's so fun to see that and get a change of pace.
Another one, I like this one when it's subverted or explored. Kind of a shameless character type I enjoy. I like the Ojo-sama. I like nice rich girls in things. At Phoenica. I love it. Anytime you have like the blonde alpha bitch character, like who will usually be in that role, and they are just a nice person and like are friends with the main characters, or they have some more depth to them than that. I love it. Conversely, I also despise it when the blonde alpha bitch is just the generic like, I also hate like, I'm the jock character, like, and I'm just the antagonist because we're supposed to have one in a high school setting. Boring.
Yep. Yep. Nope. I completely agree with that. I'm trying to think of like another one that I really enjoy.
You like strong ladies in armor.
Yeah, that is a trope. I really like the tough lady who just can kick ass nonstop. There's never the, oh boy, I hope this boy likes me. Like, no. She's got a job to do. She's gonna solve it. Like a great example, Olivier Armstrong. I freaking love that character. She's exactly what I like. Just this tough lady who just bosses everyone around, but is actually still like a pretty good person.
You know, another character both of us were talking about how much we liked her is Ozen from Maiden
Oh my
Abyss.
god, she's so good.
I love Ozen.
She's so
We're
good.
not done yet, so maybe I'd be disappointed if she somehow got terrible. But like, oh, she's fantastic.
Yes.
She's the big, strongest lady in the world. Kicks the shit out of the main characters and is creepy and has a cool design.
Yep. Oh, good stuff. Good stuff.
Oh, this is also something I mentioned. I love it whenever there's like a very specific kind of frenemy dynamic that the main character can have with another person. So in Lupin the Third, Lupin's gang's relationship with Zenigata, the detective that follows them around, I think is hysterical. And my favorite example ever is from Bomberman Jetters. Which if you haven't seen, because you're everyone, it's about this group of people that go around called the Higgy Higgy Bandits, and they're bad, and they go around the universe, and if there's only one of an object in the universe, like it's a rare item, they collect it just cause. And like there is a group specifically made to stop them called the Jetters. And people call the Jetters and like, hey, these Higgy Higgy assholes who are like a Team Rocket, but everyone is Jesse and James level group. It's like, yeah, come help. Like they're here. Come get the thing. And those two groups specifically exist to oppose each other. And like also there's just episodes where they just start hanging out. Like they're just like off work or off the punch card bad guy. I think like punch card villain is what it's called. Is just like, yeah, I'm a villain on the weekends. Like Dr. Doofenshmirtz from Phineas and Ferb, who just sometimes hangs out with Perry the Platypus or tries to. I love that. That's always really funny. I love getting to explore the villains just as much as the heroes. I think it makes for a much better story.
Yeah, your villains are a lot better if we can see more than, I burned another orphanage. It's like, you do anything else, buddy? Get a job.
Yeah, I think that's about it. There's some of our favorites. Thank you guys so much for listening to this. I hope you found this helpful. If you have a topic you'd like us to cover, leave a comment below or message us on Tumblr. My Tumblr is jelloopocalypse.tumblr.com. My Twitter is at welcome to tweet, welcome the number to tweet. And if you leave a comment on my Patreon, which is just Jello Apocalypse on Patreon, I will definitely see it because I get notified of all of those. So if you want to see that stuff, that's the best place to do it. And I'd like to give a special shout out to all of our wonderful patrons who provide us the support we need to continue doing this podcast and all the other cool stuff on this channel.
Yeah.
Especially this month, our top 10 donors: Nick,
Red Brawl,
Gary Correa,
Dave,
Stephen Edwards,
CC West,
Drew Meltzer,
Smake,
Ewan Reed,
and our top donor, Nubby.
Thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you next time.
Toodles.